All right, Jen, stream is live.
Hi, everyone. Happy
Jen.
New Year. I just wanted to welcome the new members to the planning board before we officially start. So welcome, and welcome to everybody else who's been here from last year. So with that, I'd like to call today's January 4th, 2021 Planning Board reorganizational meeting to order. Adequate notice has been given in accordance with the Sunshine Law. Notice was published on December 10th, 2020 in the Local Source and the Star Ledger, the official newspapers for the Township of Springfield for the year 2020, and posted in the Annex Building on December 11th, 2020. Let's please rise for a flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to
and
the
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to take a roll call. Mayor Chris Weber.
Here.
Committeeman Rich Huber. Absent or late. Mr. David Barnett.
Here.
Mr. Andrew Schwartz.
Present.
Mr. Aaron Laufer.
Here.
Mr. Brian Brendel.
Here.
Ms. Marissa Ruggiero.
Here.
Ms. Sharon Kessel.
Here.
Mr. Jeff Tiger.
Here.
Mr. Thomas, is it Lopez or Lopes?
Lopes, thank you. Here.
Great. Mr. Scott Wishna.
Here.
We have a quorum. Okay, so first order of business is I need a nomination for chairman.
Madam Board Administrator, I've known Jeff Tiger for years. He's become a friend and a colleague and has served this board tirelessly in his capacity as chairman in the past. I'm proud to make a nomination a motion for Jeff Tiger to be the board chairman once again.
I
Great.
happily second it.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to take a roll call for Jeff Tiger for chairman of the Planning Board 2021. Mr. David Barnett,
Yes.
Ms. Sharon Kessel,
Yes.
Mayor Chris Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
I joyfully say yes and give him my sympathies in advance.
Mr. Laufer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
I guess so.
Mr. Dario,
Yes.
Mr. Tiger,
Yes.
and Mr. Lopes.
Yes.
Congratulations, Chairman Tiger. The meeting is now yours.
Well, thanks, David. My wife doesn't even say that nice things about me, so thanks. It was nice to finally everything to be nice. Let's have nominations for vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, it's my pleasure to nominate my friend and colleague Sharon Kessel, who has been an excellent vice chair and filled in your absence, probably better than you have. Board, for your consideration, I move Sharon Kessel to be our vice chairman for the year 2021.
And I'll second that. Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, can we have a roll call? Jen, can I just do this through voice vote?
We never done it through voice.
No,
vote.
Okay,
no,
that's
no.
fine. Okay, we'll roll call.
Okay, Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Mr. Tiger,
Yes.
Mayor Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Even more happily, yes.
Mr. Laufer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
I agree with Andrew even more happily. Yes.
Mr. Dario, Ms. Kessel,
Yes.
and Mr. Lopes.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Perfect. Nominations for board attorney.
Chairman, I'm honored to nominate Glenn Keynes of the law firm Weiner Law Group as the board's attorney for 2021.
Sharon wants to second it.
Second. I'm sorry. In my head, I seconded it.
Good job, Sharon.
Any other nominations?
Can we
for board-
reconsider vice chair?
I'd like to go back to my vice chairman nomination.
Any other nominations for board attorney? Seeing none, let's do a roll call.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel,
Yes.
Mayor Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Gleefully, yes.
Mr. Lawfer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
Yes.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
and Chair Tiger.
Yes, absolutely. So for time to times, we have conflicts, and we typically will appoint a conflict board attorney that would fill in when our attorney can't make the meeting or has a conflict. So I'd like to entertain a motion to nominate a conflict board attorney.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Bruce Bergen of Krebsky, Silber, and Bergen as our conflict attorney.
Second.
Any other nominations for conflict board attorney? Seeing none, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel,
Yes.
Mayor Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Lawfer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
Yes.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
and Chair Tiger.
Yes,
Motion passes.
perfect. Like to call for nominations other than Mr. Barnett for board engineer.
Dude, I'm on a roll. No one do it.
Andrew, do you want to do it?
Nobody do it. Don't you dare.
I will defer to Mr. Barnett.
All right, go ahead, David.
Chairman, I'd like
Yeah.
to make a motion to nominate Mike Disco of M Disco Associates as our board engineer.
I will second it, though.
Perfect. Any other nominations for board engineer? Seeing none, let's do a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Lawfer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
Abstain, unfortunately.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel,
Yes.
and Chair Tiger.
Yep, yes.
Motion passes.
And as our engineer sometimes have conflict, we'll have a backup engineer. So Mr. Barnett, I guess, want to make a motion for a backup engineer?
I am happy to yield the floor if anyone else would like to nominate.
Well, then I'll make a motion to nominate the township engineer, which is Keller and Kirkpatrick, as our backup engineer.
Second.
Any other nominations for conflict engineer? Seeing none, let's do a roll call, please.
Chairman Tiger,
Yep.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Mayor Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Lawfer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
Yes.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Kessel.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Perfect. If we can promote Mr. Disco to the meeting, if possible. Next thing, we'll have nominations for board planner.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Keenan Hughes for board planner.
Second.
Second.
Let's give it to Sharon.
On.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other nominations for board planner? Seeing none, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel,
Yes.
Mayor Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Mr. Lawfer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
Yes.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
and Chair Tiger.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And as times, Keenan will have could have a conflict or doesn't have someone else in his firms if he can't attend. So we will have a backup board planner. Does anyone want to make a motion for a board planner?
Chairman, I'd like to nominate Harbor Consultants as our backup board planner.
Second.
Any other backup board planners we want to discuss? Seeing none, I'd like to do a roll call, please, Jen.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel,
Yes.
Mayor Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Lawfer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
Yes.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
and Chair Tiger.
Yes. We'll also let the record show that at 5:45, Mr. Huber, Committeeman Huber joined the meeting.
Great.
So he's on. Okay, next one. This one is for board secretary. Typically, the administrator is nominated as board secretary. Do we want to go in executive session to discuss whether we want to appoint Jen, or does someone want to make a motion?
I shall move to appoint Ms. Jen Law as our board secretary.
And I'll
She
second.
has done a wonderful, wonderful job in the past, and we can anticipate that she will be even better in the future.
And
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
As long as she does me the right link. I vote no.
You always vote no.
Rich, Mr. Huber, any other nominations for board secretary?
Should we nominate Rich?
We should nominate Rich.
Oh my God.
Seeing none, can I entertain, can we have a roll call?
Sure. Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Chair Tiger,
Yes,
Mayor
absolutely.
Weber,
Yes.
Committeeman Huber,
Yes.
Mr. Barnett,
Pain.
Mr. Laufer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel.
Definitely yes.
Thank you, Ms. Ruggiero.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and Vice Chair Kessel.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Motion
I
passed.
thought that was gonna be a little harder, but the
Well, have
next
we
one-
counted the mail-in ballots yet?
No.
Trump's
Gotta take a few-
they're counting them now.
Oh my God.
That was funny. The next thing is typically we would have an assistant board secretary. That would be our director of engineering, Mr. Disco. I know he absolutely loves filling that spot, and it's something he really enjoys doing. So I'd like to make a motion to nominate our director of engineering, Michael Disco, as assistant board secretary. Any seconds?
Second.
Any other nominations for assistant board secretary?
Rich Huber.
I will not second that.
No. Jeff Tiger. Do I get a second, David?
No way. Okay, can we do a roll call?
Chair Tiger,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel,
Yes.
Mayor Weber,
Yes.
Committeeman Huber,
Yes.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Laufer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
Abstain, please.
and Ms. Ruggiero.
Yes.
Motion.
Perfect. Okay, the official newspaper, do I have a motion? I mean, I think we've typically been doing the Star Ledger.
I would like to move that the official newspaper for all planning board business be the Star Ledger.
Second.
Any other nominations for the newspaper? Seeing none,
Wait, I think we typically, don't we do two? Isn't there
No.
a main and an alternate, Jen?
Oh, this is a topic that is passionate to Andrew.
Mr. Schwartz for the last year. So we'll go. So Andrew, what I'd like to do is do the main one that we go is the Star Ledger, but if there happens to be an issue, it would be the local source. If all else fails, we have the local source as an option.
I do
With the-
not accept that amendment to my motion.
We even have to
Well-
do that? Like, why would we have to do that? Have we ever done it?
Sometimes if the Star Ledger typically has dates that they have to be in for overnight, it doesn't work. So we always have the local source as a backup. We could just choose to be the Star Ledger only, and that's fine if you want.
Or council wants.
I mean, the board could do otherwise. I mean, we can vote on any other nominations?
Chairman Tiger,
Yes.
may I interject here real quick?
Yes.
Usually if we appoint the local source as the primary newspaper, we do this secondary as the Star Ledger because the local source takes a week to publish. If you just want to do the Star Ledger, that's fine, because really it's not applicable to have the local source as a secondary newspaper because they take a week to publish. So why even bother?
Is there a cost? Is there a cost?
That's the one issue. Star Ledger is a lot more expensive. The local source will run an applicant around $45 to $50, depending, whereas the Star Ledger, it's well over $100.
And Jen, what did the governing body do?
They do both.
Which is primary? Mr. Weber, Mr. Huber, which is primary, which is secondary?
I think the ledger is a primary, I do believe.
For where?
Public.
Township?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do believe it.
Local source is what we're publicizing in.
Let's
All
go with the
right.
ledger.
Primary.
This is like the
All right, well,
motion-
I'll entertain a motion, and then if there becomes an issue, we can always
There was a
rediscuss.
motion, there was a motion and a second already.
Okay, so.
Okay.
And
is
that
any
motion,
other
just to recap, was for the Star Ledger alone.
Only, yes.
Gotcha.
Any other motions out there for official newspaper? Seeing none, let's do a roll call.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Mr. Weber, Mayor
Yes.
Committeeman Huber,
Yep.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
Yes.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel,
Yes.
and Chair Tiger.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, everyone got a copy of the meeting dates for 2021. If anyone has any questions or concerns, but we're going to adopt them. Obviously, things could be fluid. If we have to, right now we're set for 5:30.
Can we switch it to 6 o'clock? Because some of us don't work at home, and we come from New York, and it's hard to get here by 5:30.
I support that, even though I work locally, 5:30 for
Yeah.
me is also hard.
It's
Yeah.
hard.
Okay.
6 is fine with me.
So Jen, let's republish with the dates for, we're going to do a motion roll call, but let's go with 6 PM for all of our meetings, that we can publish for. I guess February would be the first one we would do 6 PM. And I would like to, if I can get a motion for approval of the meeting minutes, subject to the change from a 5:30 PM start time to a 6 PM start time.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call?
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Committeeman Huber,
yes.
Mayor Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Laufer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
Or,
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel,
Yes.
and Chair Tiger.
Yes.
Motion
And-
passes.
And, for now and for the foreseeable future, we'll be meeting like what I call the Brady Bunch on screen, in the cameras. But, as time goes on, as the governing body decides, what they're doing, we'll revisit it. We're not obligated to do what the governing body does. We're our own independent board, and all of us will vote, and we'll make sure that it's safe before we think about coming back. Okay, two other things before we start the regular meeting. Subcommittees. We typically have two subcommittees that we appoint that we'll discuss. The first subcommittee will be for an ordinance subcommittee. That typically would meet, with the township engineer, discuss any changes to the ordinances that we're going to suggest the governing body adopt. I would like to suggest Mr. Brendel, Mr. Wishna, Mr. Barnett, and Ms. Kessel to be on the ordinance committee. Does anyone have any questions or concerns? That's just the ordinance committee. There's also a redevelopment committee. If no one has any concerns, let me say the next one, and then we could just do it on one motion as opposed. For the redevelopment committee, I would like to suggest myself, Mr. Schwartz, Mr. Barnett, and Ms. Kessel. So there will be two separate groups. Doesn't meet regular at all. It's whenever ad hoc things come up, when redevelopment comes up or ordinance things that come up. Anyone have any concerns with those names? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept my recommendations for both subcommittees as read in the. Can we have a roll call?
I didn't get the motion.
Oh, I made a motion. Someone said second.
I said second.
Okay, I made the motion. Okay, that's fine.
All right, Chairman Tiger,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Weber,
Yes.
Committeeman Huber,
Yes.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Mr. Laufer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
yes.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Kessel.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so we're done with the reorganization meeting. That's great. So we're going to go on to the regular meeting. So speaking of the ordinance subcommittee, the ordinance subcommittee met in December. By the way, Joe, is Mr. Disco on?
Mr. Disco is not on.
Jen, do you want to try to reach out to him?
Yeah.
I mean, I saw him for a few minutes. Because if not, I'm going to switch to the application.
I'm telling him right now.
Give it a second. We'll just take a quick minute recess, but we need him on. Keenan's there.
Okay, I asked him to come on now, please.
You didn't text me?
Yeah, I don't have your cell phone.
My feelings are hurt.
Well, you won't have to worry because we started at 6 p.m. going forward just for you. Okay, so we're going to go on to the application then. We're going to go on to the application.
Well, in that case, Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself.
Andrew,
You want to just-
let me give it a minute. Give it a minute because I really, really want you to be a part of the ordinance stuff. Did Mr. Disco?
Calling him right now.
I hope you're calling him something nice.
He says he's connecting.
Okay, we'll give it a sec.
Well, does he still have the dial up? Because it'll be a while.
I hope not.
Oh, I see him. He's on the bottom now. It says Mike Disco. Good. I don't see his face, but it says Mike Disco.
Yep.
There you go. Okay. Perfect. So let's go before Andrew. We're going to go through the. So like I was saying in the beginning, from time to time, the ordinance committee meets, looks at different things that are, going on in the town, meets with the zoning board folks to kind of determine what applications that they're seeing that's causing variances. And there were two items that came up that needs further discussion of our board that Mr. Disco sent out some highlights on. The first one was for the planning board, when commercial applicants want to put a generator in, it's considered an accessory structure, which triggers a whole site plan approval. And the proposal is for the change of ordinance to say that if they're going to come for an accessory structure that doesn't require any other variances, a generator wouldn't be included in an accessory structure. Mr. Disco, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, remember, accessory structures are prohibited in non-residential zones. So that's the first hurdle, is to make it not prohibited. And then we'd make it easier by saying we can excuse the normal site plan procedure by going through the TRC. And we save everybody's time and effort and save money for the applicant.
So any questions or concerns with this? Now, again, we, as the planning board, not the final board decision-making things. This will go with the other one that we're doing to the governing body. They will review and decide to accept, change, adopt, whatever it might be, and then go through the process.
So we're saying if a commercial property wants to put a generator, they don't have to come to the planning board?
They go to the TRC instead. Because it was deemed an accessory structure in the past, it was defaulto, it had to come. Even if it had no variances, they could still put it there, but they would be before the board, and we'd trigger a site plan, cause these businesses to pay money that they typically wouldn't have to do to pay.
And what would trigger the TRC to send it to us?
Mike?
So the TRC, just like we've done with solar applications, and I included an example there, if it's straightforward, the TRC can recommend a waiver of site plan. If there's something complicated, there's a noise issue, or the commercial borders a residential area, for instance, we just send it to the planning board as normally now. But it's an attempt to streamline, and the obvious small generator that doesn't have anything in a commercial or warehouse area, it just streamlines the process.
What would be considered a small generator? Or say large?
So if the typical residential generator is 24 kilowatts or smaller, they're not producing much noise except for the emergency issue. So again, we're looking at commercials. If they were comparable to that, the TRC would look at it and say, this makes sense. There's no infraction of other accessory structure variances for location, and we could recommend the waiver. Just like on a solar, what we've been doing is, because it meets the 8-inch limitation of above the roof, and there's no visual impact, we've been recommending to the planning board a waiver of the site plan. We've done that a couple times. So that would be the basis or the model to follow.
So that was issue one. Issue two is the zoning board reached out. They typically have a lot of, and I'll let Michael go into more detail because he discussed this with the zoning official, but they typically have gotten a ton of applications for fences in the front yard. So there was a compromise that the board, that the zoning officer came up with, that he felt that it was acceptable. And so did Mr. Disco. So he's going to review it with us, and it would be a change to allow fences, certain fences allowed in the front yards that typically weren't there. Mr. Disco, do you want to highlight that for us?
So the Board of Adjustment probably gets the most applications, or one of their leading two types of applications is front yard fencing. And it's not necessarily a straight frontage for the house. It's really a corner lot where you have two front yards. So the applicants always suggest to the Board of Adjustment, this is not a front yard, it's a side yard. They need privacy, either small children or pets. They want to corral them and not let them go into the street. So the Board of Adjustment has been routinely approving these and basically permitting a 5-foot tall fence, 4 feet of solid material, and 1 foot of an open lattice. It's very common for vinyl fences, white vinyl fences, or other colors. So since they're getting so many of these and they're routinely approving them, the question becomes, are they routinely approving them in error, or is there something that we have to look at in terms of our ordinance? So we looked at a number of things with our ordinance. One, which seems simple enough, is let's say you have a 30-foot front yard requirement in most residential zones. Let's say the house is already positioned at 19 or 20 feet from right of way. It's an existing nonconformity. Maybe it was approved 10, 20, 30 years ago. Maybe it predated the ordinance. In those instances, they want to put a fence which matches the position of the house. It would automatically require a variance for an encroachment into the front yard of 30 feet. So on a non-corner lot, the board was routinely approving those. Since the house is already there, why would the board say no to the fence? On a corner lot, they've been approving solid fences right on the right-of-way line or the property line. And some of those fences are wood stockade, some of them were multicolored vinyl. Some of them were in the past chain link, which are prohibited by Springfield ordinance now. And so we were trying to find a way to permit some fencing, but not kind of create that walled off effect. And for the committee members, I submitted several examples of what those were. So the proposed ordinance would allow a 4-foot and open fence, open being defined as at least 51% open, at the property line on a corner lot. If they wanted to not have an open fence or taller than 4 feet, we suggested a 10-foot setback for that. And the reason for the 10-foot setback is that from the examples that we had, it becomes less crowded or less visually obstructing. Also, our site triangle ordinance has a requirement that it's 20 feet from curb line on the minor street, and then 350 to 400 or 500, depending on the category of street, along that length. So the 20-foot translates into a 10-foot setback plus the normal right-of-way distance from the curb to the property line. So when you set it back 10 feet, you're in effect matching the site triangle distance required of 20 feet. That may be a long way to say it. Without a picture, it's difficult to comprehend that. But that puts it out of the site triangle requirement and standard, and allows the board then, Board of Adjustment in this case, to either administratively approve it, or if they violate the 5-foot height which is being proposed, or they want a solid fence inboard of that 10-foot offset, they would have to get a variance for that. It will certainly reduce the number of applications coming to the Board of Adjustment. It would also incentivize people to put the 4-foot and open fences on those corner properties rather than the solid fences. Right now, there's no option, and they have to go to the board, so they're asking for the maximum, which is generally a 6-foot solid fence. So by giving them the 4-foot open as the easy path, that will reduce the amount of applications to the board. That's also what other towns have. And where I'm, for instance, I do all zoning reviews in Mountainside. That's what we permit in Mountainside, 4-foot and open fences on front yards, on corner lots. So there is some basis for matching that.
We able to dictate the material of the fence? So can we say it has to be natural material or versus something else, metal or plastic?
We could right now, about 8-10 years ago, I'm not sure who was the genesis for it, but the council decided they did not want chain link fencing, so they prohibited chain link fencing.
Mhm.
Other fences are not prohibited at this time. We're seeing mostly vinyl fences. The white vinyl, personally, I think is very ugly and very bright and
I agree.
stark. Other fence types are better, woods, stockade,
Yeah.
maybe muted colors. Certainly black open rail mutes very well with landscaping. What we had suggested was on a solid fence on a corner lot, that they also provide some landscaping in front of it to kind of mute that effect.
Yeah.
So there certainly could be more language or more restrictive language on fencing. I don't know if there's a tenor with the council to restrict other types of fences other than what right now is just a prohibition on chain link fencing in residential areas.
Yeah, so what I think I'm going to do, Mr. Disco, is I think the board, we're not going to pass this tonight because I want to get a copy of, I want Mr. Disco to write a proposed ordinance and send it to us, and we can take this up on our February meeting. Any question, any feedback you want to give Mr. Disco for putting together that ordinance?
Yeah, I got something for you guys real quick.
Yeah, so we'll go in order. Mr. Weber, go ahead.
I don't think they make a 5-foot vinyl fence. I'm on Home Depot right now looking. All vinyl fences are 5 foot 8 inches. I've never seen a 5-foot vinyl fence. I don't think it is in existence. I think they're all 6 foot or 4 foot.
The board was approving fences 5 foot in height with a 4-foot solid and a 1-foot lattice. So they must be getting them.
Yeah, I don't see them though, is what I'm saying. I'm looking right now. I've been looking at them for the last 10 minutes. Every fence I'm finding here is 5 foot 8 inches. Wait, I'm sorry, hold on. 5 feet high, 5 by 8 panels. Okay, wait. Time out. You're allowing a 1 foot opening?
So what the Board of Adjustment, again, I'm not with the Board of Adjustment, what they've been routinely doing as a condition of the variance, instead of a 6 foot solid fence, they've been approving it as a 5 foot high fence as a compromise, with the top foot being an open lattice type of pattern. I did have some pictures out that show these in the ground.
Okay, forget about what I just said. I understand that now. I wasn't understanding that. Okay, good.
Mr. Barnett?
Thanks. So on the fences, I do agree. Having been on the planning board, I know we just get, a lot of them, or that board gets a lot. I agree with you about the material. I would like to see something not the white, high, solid vinyl fences. So I think the setbacks, which you had talked about, makes a lot of sense. I'd love to see a natural material like a wood or black fence or something like that. I think it just maintains the character of the neighborhood and blends in. Any landscaping, I'm all for that. So I think that all makes a lot of sense. I'm not as crazy about the generator changes to the ordinance for a few reasons. One, it is early in the year. I know we have a new township committee with a new mayor, and there may be some conversations they're having about sort of more, larger master planning for the town. But I also like the ability for the neighbors where they border commercial zones, like the application we had a couple months ago, where it's like Scott Wishner's old house area. For the residents to get noticed of things like generators, even though smaller ones don't make as much noise, they still make noise. And I do think they should have some awareness of what's happening next to them. And I'm not opposed to the ordinance, but I'd like it, you know, possibly to be very, very controlled as to what the TC can waive and what it would have to pass to the planning board. I know we've seen a lot of generators that some by residential areas, some not by residential areas. I like that we have the ability to discuss it, possibly minimize, talk about landscaping, all that type of stuff here at this board. I'd be a little bit hesitant to give up that control yet.
Well, let Mr. Disco write something up that may be, and if you can provide some feedback, and we'll see if it's something the board wants to do. Mr. Loeffler?
I have nothing.
Mr. Lopes? Speak up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I echo what Mr. Barnett said, both for the fence and the material choice. I think that's really important. Me coming from the side of architecture, materials are always very important. So I agree with your comments there. I would second that. As far as the generator, I would also agree with Mr. Barnett. I would like, I could speak for myself when I present at some of these boards. The opportunity for neighbors to hear what's going on next to them via site plan approval tends to be important. So I also agree with Mr. Barnett on that.
Okay, Mr. Wishna?
Well, I think we spent a good portion of the time in the subcommittee discussing the impact on the residential setback change relative to the generator, but you know, I don't recall or didn't pick up on the fact that commercial was being lumped into that. So having said that, I fully support what Mr. Barnett mentioned earlier. I think that those types of applications need to be heard.
Okay. Mrs. Ruggiero?
I'm taking a look. I think I need to get a little bit more information regarding the generators before I can, make an opinion on that. So I'd like to hear a little bit more on that. In terms of the fencing, I also agree with Mr. Barnett on that. So those are my comments.
Ms. Kessel?
I agree completely with Mr. Barnett. I do think it's important to be able to maintain some control. That made me a little bit uneasy, the extent to which we were going to be giving up some of the control, because it does matter, it matters to the residents. So I agree with what you folks said.
Okay, Mr. Huber?
I agree just about the generators. I want to know more about it. That's all.
Okay, so
I can't see us telling these people what to put on it, but.
Okay, Mr. Barnett. Mr. Brendel.
I know we look like it's easy to get us confused. No, nothing additional that hasn't been said by anyone else at this point.
Okay, so what we'll do is, Mr. Disco, for the February meeting, maybe you come with some of the information, how this would impact, what control the TRC.
Hey, what about? Whoa, you forgot a couple.
Tiger. Am I persona non grata?
Sorry, I'm sorry, Mr. Schwartz. I'm so sorry.
You asked me to stick around and then you shut me up?
Yeah.
That's hard.
Honestly, I went in the order of the screen.
That won't happen, Mr. Schwartz.
Yeah,
sorry, no, I know it won't. Well, briefly, on the fence issue, I guess I'm a little concerned that for the time that I've lived in Springfield, the notion of a front yard fence has really been a sore point. And I'm personally aware of some residents who have had tough issues when they've tried to install a front yard fence. And now to hear that these are being routinely granted is a little troubling. And I think in addition to just seeing the ordinance, it's either pictures or addresses so we can see it in action on these corner lots. I think that would be useful and helpful. On the generator issue, I'm while I understand the concern for neighbors in residential areas that border the commercial areas, the generators we have dealt with previously, our ordinances, as I recall, are pretty strict on noise levels, on testing times and the like. and already take into account residential concerns. So I'm not quite sure what would be gained by forcing a commercial business to come to the planning board in order to simply have us pass something because they have, set it up in the most, in the best manner to avoid excess noise and already have a testing schedule that is something that we would easily approve and would not be something considered disturbing, out of the beyond necessary for these businesses vis-a-vis the residences that are local.
Yeah, so Ms. Schwartz, I kind of agree with you on that. That was some of the purpose to, maybe what we add in is if it's something the board wants to act as if it doesn't border a residential property. But we're not going to solve today. We're not acting on anything today. But Mr. Disco, we got a month, kind of review some of these things. These are some of the discussions that come up, and come back to us with a potentially what he's proposing, taking into account our zoning official and so forth, and then we'll go from there. Does that sound good? No action today from the board, just that this is out there and something we're going to do. Probably what we'll do is between now and the next month, the ordinance committee will meet with Mr. Disco and try to work all this stuff out. So unless there's any more discussion on this, I'd like to move to the application. Any more discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's take the opportunity for application 1-2021S, Summit Hill at Springfield LLC, 100 Stone Hill Drive, block 1002, lot 2, for preliminary and final site plan with 4 variances. Mr. Schwartz?
Chairman, I'm going to be recusing myself from this application and leaving the meeting.
Okay, well, thank you for joining, and we'll see you in February.
Happy New Year, everybody. Happy and healthy New Year, everybody.
Happy
Yes.
New Year.
Take care, Andrew.
Yeah.
Would you mind promoting Mr. Hill? Joe?
All right, Tom, you get the vote.
All right, he has been promoted.
Perfect. I don't see him. I see him on the bottom. And then I believe we have a Q&A, which we'll have to do. There's Mr. Hill. If you could take yourself off mute.
Yes, great to see everybody. And Happy New Year after a crazy year.
Well, only good things in 2021, let's hope.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So what say you before the board?
Okay, yes, just briefly, again, Stephen Hale representing the applicant, Summit Hill at Springfield LLC. And again, great to see everyone, and great action by the board in appointing your professionals. Certainly working with Jen, Glenn, Keenan, Mike, and the crew makes it much easier. And I've been before this board many times, and it's refreshing when you get reports ahead of time, even when it's after a holiday weekend and we have an opportunity to review those. So thanks, Mike and Keenan and Jen for supplying those. So just briefly by way of description, as you're probably aware, Summit Hill at Springfield is a very large apartment complex, well maintained. It's actually approximately 23 acres. And what we're seeking here is approval for 2 what we consider to be very attractive and well-designed ground signs near the intersection of Shumpike Road and Stonehill Road. And as we've indicated in our application, and I know we reviewed the reports from both Mr. Disco and Mr. Hughes, we feel that this signage is unique to this piece of property. Again, it's a very large site, and the main entrance, and there's only one main ingress and egress off of Stonehill Road, that is, and therefore members of whether it be the public, whether it be delivery, emergency service, have difficulty, particularly even in this day and age where many people are home and getting deliveries, and people are getting lost trying to find this site or go by it. And again, even more so with emergency services, with the complex that's 228 units in 19 two-story apartment buildings. We think again that we've designed these 2 signs, which are at that that are attractive. We received the comments from both Mr. Disco, Mr. Hughes, and our Joe Steiger, who I know has been before this board on many occasions, will describe the additional lighting and landscaping that's proposed to make it further attractive. In addition, I think it was either both Mr. Hughes and Mr. Disco pointed out that there were some additional signs that apparently were installed at some period of time without approvals, a couple of board signs. Those will be, now that they've been pointed out, they will be removed. And also, when we receive the review comments from your professionals, the applicant has also agreed to delete and remove the website designation and just would seek to have the phone number there. Again, these are in response to having received those reports. And so that's the nature of our application. There's no other changes that are permitted or that are proposed as part of this application. So that's an overview of the application, Mr. Tiger.
Mr. Hill, before we go, I just want to be clear. So the sign, you're still seeking a waiver or variance, whatever it might be, and we'll talk about it, for having the phone number of the development as opposed to just having the name of the development.
I think that would be correct, although I believe, yeah, because you're allowed the identification, the address and the like, but we feel the phone number would be, we think, again, we can lose the website, but we would like to have the phone number there.
Well, that'll be something we have to talk to the board. Okay, so let's, I think you could probably sum this up with one witness potentially. So who would you like to call? And this way we can swear them in.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff, just before you get there, this is Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
I want to indicate that, and maybe Steve has to answer this question. I did about 1.5 years ago some work for KRE in a different town as special land use counsel. It never went to an application. We basically attended some meetings, and that was the extent of it. It seems to me that in order to keep this as pure can be, probably would be better for me not to participate. I don't think I have a conflict because of time, because there was no application. We don't have a file open in our office anymore, but I think in order to keep it as clean can be, I think it would probably be better if I not participate in this hearing.
Okay, that's fine. Just stay by and take notes for the resolution and we can review it together.
Yes. We have no objection either way.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Steve, I'm just being really, really careful. I
No,
don't want anybody to whack anybody or anything else.
I get it, Glenn. No problem.
Perfect. So, Mr. Hale, do you want to introduce your first witness and
Yeah. Yes, I'd like to call upon Mr. Joseph Steiger, who will be testifying as a professional planner and a traffic engineer, and he's obviously well familiar with the reports that have been issued by your professionals.
Mr. Steiger, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So,
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, Mr. Hale, can you qualify him? Tell me a little
Yes.
bit. This.
Mr. Steiger, if you could please give the board the benefit of work, educational experience, area of expertise, and whether you've been accepted by boards or courts of the state of New Jersey in both the areas of professional planning and professional engineering, including traffic engineering.
Yes. I have a Bachelor of Science and Master of Science degrees in Civil Engineering, New Jersey Institute of Technology, which I've also been an adjunct professor of the Department of Civil Engineering at NJIT. I have a professional engineer's and a professional planner's license in the state of New Jersey, and also professional engineering licenses in the Northeast and other states. I've appeared before this board and certainly in the capacity as a professional engineer, as a traffic engineer. Don't believe I've testified as a planner as well, but I've appeared well over a few hundred cases in other planning boards, board of adjustments throughout the state of New Jersey.
And your licenses are valid at this minute in time?
Correct, yes.
Perfect. Does the board have any concerns? I don't see any reasons for qualifying him as a traffic engineer and a professional planner.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
And I know Glenn is on mute, but in the past at this meeting, we have sworn in our professionals
You're right.
for the entire year. And
Yes.
these professionals. So I'm wondering if Glenn may want to do that now to cover us for application and
Thank you.
future.
Good point.
Thank you, David. So let's see, I need Michael and Keenan, and they're the only two that we're talking about, right?
Yep.
All right. Gentlemen, would you both raise your right hands? Do you both swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in proceedings before the board tonight? And for the rest of the season, which is the next 12 months, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and you gentlemen have both been qualified. You both have valid licenses. You've been hired by the board for a number of years, and this will be a universal one. Jen, in the minutes, would you please make sure to note that in fact they were sworn in for the year so nobody can challenge that?
Sure thing.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Mr. Barnett. Okay, Mr. Hale, let's go through Mr. Steiger's testimony.
All right.
Oh, actually, does the board have any concerns with Mr. Steiger? No, I see everyone shaking their heads no, so we'll go for it. Mr. Hale, if you can give a brief overview with Mr. Steiger and move through.
Yes. So, Mr. Steiger, you're obviously well familiar with the site, and you've received the reports. If you could provide the board with an overview of what's proposed by way of improvements, and then address the departmental reports. And Mr. Steiger, I know Josh Kudre from our office is on, who may assist Mr. Steiger with some of the exhibits.
Well, then we may need to swear him. Is he going to speak or just pull up the exhibits?
No, well, unless he wants to speak, but no, he's just one of the attorneys at our firm.
Okay, go ahead.
Who's younger and a lot better at this stuff than we are.
Yes, I'll give a brief overview of the proposal. The site access is actually on Stonehill Road, and Stonehill Road really is a function, I'll call it an extension of the driveway or access point to the site, because the main access roadway to the site is indeed Shunpike Road. And we've had, meaning KRE, the operators of the site, has had complaints from residents, from delivery people and other service people and so forth, just difficulty finding the site. And the purpose of this sign is just to provide additional identification to the site so that motorists advancing towards the site have ample warning, have ample identification so that they can react in a safe manner. And that's really the main purpose of the two signs. The signs, as your ordinance reads, one sign is allowed. Typically, a sign is back to back, and in this case, because of the angle and the skewness of the road, we're providing them at an angle. So it's almost, I'll call it a V shape as opposed to a back-to-back sign as you typically see. So we are proposing only two faces, just as a back-to-back sign would be. So functionally, it is the same as a back-to-back sign, a single sign. However, since they are separated as a V shape, we will take the safe road and call it two signs that are proposed rather than one sign. The site plan is pretty self-explanatory, or the sign variance plan that we prepared. It shows that location of the two signs. We've angled the signs so that they are perpendicular to the line of sight as one approaches either westbound or eastbound along Shunpike Road, so that someone riding on Shunpike knows the location of the site itself, and not just passing by or at least giving that advance warning to the motorists so that they know that they've come upon the site that they're destined to go to, and then make the proper maneuver.
Mr. Steiger, it would be helpful. I mean, I think everyone knows where the sign is, but can we see what it looks like? Can we put that on the screen?
Oh,
For the public?
absolutely, and that's why I'm gonna ask Josh.
Because I think that's helpful.
Yep.
I think actually Joe has it, right? Joe, you've got it?
Well, here we go.
Yep, I have all the exhibits ready. Just let me know what you need.
Very good. Thanks, Joe.
Actually, does everyone see an exhibit called enlargement plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so is that in the plans?
Yes, this is actually taking an excerpt, I'll call it, to the monument sign variance plan that was provided as this part of the.
It's just enlarged. It was part of the same documents that was submitted to the board that
Yes.
everyone had in the packet. It's just enlarged. Okay, so then we don't
Yes,
need.
Mr. Tiger, I'm sharing it from the same drive folder you have.
Okay, so you can make it bigger, but so we don't need to mark it as an exhibit. Go ahead.
What you see in front of you right now was the entire sheet, and there you are with the large detail that shows the sign. So I'm getting an echo of my voice. If anybody knows.
I know. I heard.
I'm sorry. Are you getting an echo, or is it just me? Yeah, I think
I hear you as an echo. Do you hear me as an echo?
Not now.
Okay, you're not anymore either. So go ahead.
Okay, good. So this is the enlargement of the detail. It's at the corner, the intersection of Stonehill Road, Shunpike. You can see how the angles of the signs are located. So the variance that we are seeking, as I pointed out before, is that we're asking for a total of 4 signs because almost identical signs are also located at the main entrance on Stonehill Road. So the number of signs, 1 variance. This is the depiction of the sign at the existing sign at Stonehill Road. And so it mimics, if not very closely identical to the proposed signs. There we go.
So the difference of this proposed sign, the difference is adding the phone number on and you're removing the website. That's what it comes down to.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, and it's your testimony that this is needed for the health and public safety, so police, fire, ambulance knows where to go.
Absolutely, as well as the motorists who might be looking for the site and making the proper maneuver into the site, not rubbernecking, not passing by the site, or making a turn short of what they would safely make the turn. So it's advanced warning for identification of the site.
Yeah. So my question is, can you testify a little bit why the number is necessary?
Well, the number is something that is helpful, something that people do look for. You may find the site, and then the number would be for additional information. It's not for purposes of traffic safety. It certainly does not play any effect. It's just additional information that we are providing for Summit Hill. In case someone wants to look for additional information by calling. It's a convenience more to the general public as opposed to anything else.
Okay. All right. Anything further that you want to present?
That's basically it. I mean,
No, I think there was Mr. Tiger. There also was, I believe, the exhibit, and if Joe could put it up with the proposed lighting and landscaping, because I know both.
Yeah.
Disco and
if you can cover any of the positive and negative criteria from any of the variances.
Yeah, no, right. I'll provide all that.
Yeah.
So this is something we had prepared by the landscaping firm to come up with an idea of proposed landscaping, as well as the ground lighting, which is required by ordinance externally of the sign itself also. So we'll certainly provide a beautification of that corner. There is the ground sign. It's only 5.25 inches high. The actual luminaire is even smaller than that, probably half of that, maybe 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. Just there to light up the sign. So no glare, and not going to spill out onto any adjoining properties or the roadway.
Okay. So I see the landscaping. We'll pause with you. Mr. Disco, can you give the board a little overview of what your thoughts are on some of this stuff? I think they addressed the major comments in your letter.
Yeah, I think they documented that they have adequate sight to the sign. I had one comment that the existing vegetation might have to be trimmed back. So as long as the proposed landscaping doesn't obscure the language of the sign, it's all good. They've agreed to remove the other 2 signs that were in the municipal right of way. So I have no other comments on it.
Comments. Mr. Disco, for us, the phone number, I'm one of 9. So my initial thought of the phone number, I get it. We got to have, the name of the site. It makes total sense from a public safety standpoint. It makes sense. It's 2 large entrances they have. This one hasn't had anything, and it's a pretty big entrance. So I agree. But what have you seen in other developments in the town, if you can kind of help us as a board make collectively the decision?
So what the ordinance says, and it's very simple, so I'll read it. In addition to the height and size limitations, it can contain only the name of the apartment development. Well, we've got that. The street address. So that's not listed here. I think it's on the other signs by the entrance. The location of the manager and the presence or lack of available vacant dwelling units. So you've got the potential to put some sort of manager or rental office language, but it's silent on phones and websites. So via Googler today, and I submitted it to Jen, was able to get it on the Google Drive. I think there was 17 other locations of multifamily residential developments in town. And most of those, there was only one that had a website. And obviously, when the ordinance was drawn, it may not have been prevalent to have websites. So that might explain why there's so few of those. Of the 17, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 17 had a phone number on it, whether it was a manager, rental office, or some other contact information. So 10 didn't, 7 did.
Okay, what have you seen in other towns as a last ditch thing to help us?
Again, I can only comment on in Mountainside, we prohibit phone numbers and websites because it's non-identification. It's more of a sales or, non-identification type of signs. Other municipalities allow it. So it's really this particular multifamily residential. There seems to be specific language. They talk about the rental and the vacancy. They don't address it in the manner of allowing phone numbers. So the Columbia Court has only the name. Troy Village right down the street has only the name. Park Place at Springfield, only the name. So it's really, what is being achieved by having the phone number there.
All right, so I'm going to open that part up to the board. Anything further, Mr. Disco, before I go to Mr. Hughes?
No.
Keenan, what is your thoughts on a planning standpoint? I think we agree the sign's appropriate. I think from your letter, it says the size and is appropriate. It's the putting it in this location. It's reasonable because it's a major entrance and it probably should have been one to be there before. What is your thoughts?
Well, I think the applicant has addressed the comments in my report. I am pleased to see that they are including some low landscaping around the signs, because that's actually an opportunity to really enhance that corner. So beyond that, it's really just this issue of the phone number. And I think that, considering sort of the overall appearance along this very visible frontage of the property in an intersection that's well traveled, it's an attractive sign, it's attractive landscaping. I really just defer to the board as to whether they feel that the phone numbers should be appropriately placed on these signs.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Hale, anything you want to say about the phone number before the board opens up? Because I think that's just the only issue, but the board may have some other concerns.
Yeah. And just brief, I think I'm unmuted, right?
Yeah.
One of the things here is that, and we appreciate all of your comments, but the fact that they're not looking to put the street address. They're not looking to put the manager location. They're not looking to put about vacancy wording. I mean, I think it's much more attractive to have this sign with just the phone number than, vacancies available, manager's office around the corner, or even the street address. I just think it's particularly the vacancy sign that might be changing and things like that. So I think that for those reasons, certainly think that, and by the way, the applicant would agree that despite the fact, because we're seeking a variance, that the applicant can offer this and the board can impose a condition that despite the ordinance saying you can put the street address, manager location, and vacancy wording, that it would be agreed that that would not be part of this sign. I think that would add as just a nice attractiveness, as both your professionals have observed.
Yeah, I don't think the sign's the issue. I mean, but I look at your other sign on the other one that you have, the main one, and there's no phone number on it. There's, that one. Yeah. So that just has the address. So let's see what the board has to say. I'm not against it. I'm not opposed to it. I just think it looks cleaner with just the nice sign. I'm more thinking about my personal thing is when I'm driving by and I say, oh, there's a phone number, I'll slow down, I'll grab my phone. I'd rather, make it cleaner so people don't do that. But let's open it up to the board for any questions or concerns. Mrs. Kessel, can we, Joe, can we go back to faces and so we can see everyone? Go ahead.
I mean, I think there was a time when having a phone number on something actually mattered. I don't think it's necessary anymore. You see the name of the development. If you're interested in it, you go home and you Google it. So I like the way it looks. It does look cleaner without it, but I don't think people are gonna slow down to say, hey, let me write down that phone number. They're just gonna remember the name of the development. So I think it may be much ado about nothing. I don't think it's gonna cause any accidents.
Okay, Mrs. Ruggiero?
Yeah, my concern is whether it could cause an accident if someone's slowing down and taking a picture of the phone number. I think it also looks nicer without it, but that's really just safety concerns about having the number there.
Okay, Mr. Lopes?
Yep. So I echo the comments that were just made, particularly about the traffic safety. If the goal is to promote site safety, traffic safety, I think adding a phone number contradicts that. So I agree.
Well, you're an architect, and let's chat. What is your advice to the board too? What would you be designing if you did this for clients and so forth?
Well, from an aesthetic standpoint, I think not having the phone number obviously looks much nicer. I get from an ownership, client standpoint, you'd want that phone number for a bit of advertising if you have that opportunity on a new sign that you're putting on your property. But I just think I just think it's not necessary for this instance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lopes. Mr. Loeffler?
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think that if you put the phone number in there, it looks more like an advertisement as opposed to an identifier. And I think it looks more homey without the phone number, especially with the website listed. I think that's a good touch. And if anybody wants to have any information, that's where they would find it. Yeah, I think by putting the phone number in, you're almost implying that you're trying to sell an apartment, basically, or a rental. I think it just looks more suburban without the phone number.
Okay. Mr. Loeffler, though, but I think the request was that they're going to remove the website as well, because that's not allowed by the ordinance, but they wanted to have the phone number. I think it's mixed between the board. So I'd like to get your opinion, knowing that the website's being removed.
I don't think it's necessary to have the website there, so that's fine. I just think that to keep the suburban feel, I just think a phone number just implies more of a sales pitch.
Okay. Mayor Weber?
Yeah, listen, I'm in real estate, and love the sign. The phone number is not needed. It doesn't do anything for it. People will find this place no matter what, and I agree with everybody. That phone number just isn't the vibe that you want. I don't like it.
Okay. Mr. Huber? Committeeman Huber?
Yep. Yes. I'm sorry. It takes me a minute to reach up. I'm an old man. No, I think the sign that the way it is now should stay. I don't think everything else you need. You can get off the internet, as Mr. Kessler said. I agree with her.
Mr. Barnett?
Yeah, I'm with the board. I think that having one or the other, just aesthetically, it's a less cluttered sign, but I'm with everyone else. While I have the floor, maybe this is not the proper time, but I appreciate the landscaping that the applicant is talking about and showing. That property farther up Shun Pike as you go towards Bryant Park, the side where the front of their property is very nice and very well kept. The side of the property, which will be right adjacent to this new sign, is always messy. It's not, besides the garbage that's often there, it's weed trees, overgrown vines. It's always, it's always a very messy area. I pass by it every single day. I know we can't make conditions about that on this particular application, but while I have some representatives of the applicant here, I would love for them to take a look at their property farther up Shun Pike as you go towards Bryant Park, and try to clean up the landscaping there. There is a raised parking lot there, and when lights are on at night, depending on some of your angles, they do shine into the oncoming traffic. So any type of vegetation that's also planted there or maintained better would cut down on some of that light distraction on Shun Pike as well. So.
Okay, Mr. Barnett, that's something, let's have Mr. Disco work with the zoning officer, and of course, Mr. Hale can bring it back to the applicant just to make sure.
And thank you, Mr. Barnett and Mr. Tiger. And they are on it and listening, and I can say that they're going to address that immediately.
Yeah, perfect. What, Mr. Wishna, I forgot you. I'm so sorry. Any concerns?
Well, I won't restate what others have stated. I have agreed with some of the comments already, but I think the overarching reason that this application was put forward, it doesn't seem like it was for marketing purposes, but for wayfinding purposes. And the comment that the police and fire department, that emergency services in the town know how to get there. It's the individual drivers for Prime and DoorDash that haven't been to the area before that don't know where they're going. So in my opinion, a phone number and a website aren't necessary, but what is wayfinding verbiage that says turn right or turn left. That's what I would have done if I would have designed this. Otherwise, it's just advertising that this is where the apartment complex is, but it doesn't tell you how to enter it. So, I mean, if I were the one designing it and putting this application forward, that's what I would have done. So echo the sentiments that the phone number and website don't need to be there.
Thank you, Mr. Wishna. Mr. Barnett, Mr. Brendel, I'm sorry. It seems like I forgot you. I'm going through the pains.
That's okay. I'm nothing else that anyone has added. It's funny. I was going to say the website would have been actually more useful than the phone number, but I know it's not allowed by ordinance, so nothing further.
Okay, so Mr. Hill, I think overall the board has, is comfortable with the application, comfortable. You met the burdens, I believe, and we'll vote of having the sign, the height, and so forth, meeting with what you showed us. But I think what the board just wants to see is the name of the complex. If you would like to add the street address in to mimic what you have on the other one, the other big sign, feel free to, because it promotes the health and public safety of the direction of knowing where we are, but that the board would not be comfortable with adding on, obviously, the website or the phone number. Is that acceptable? It seems like the board is not in agreement with the otherwise.
Yeah, and I think that the suggestion of having the address is a good idea.
Yeah, so we'll leave that as an option. Mr. Disco is, as everything for the board, is the arbitrator of all. So you'll withdraw the part of the application for the variance or a deviation for the website and phone number.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we'll make Mr. Disco, if you want to add in the street address, that's fine. It'll be part of the resolution, and you can work with him on to make sure that it's acceptable. Okay, so with that, anyone, since we kind of went around, I'll just entertain what the board would be doing is acting favorably to grant the variance to have the additional sign. So they would have more than one sign. What's allowed. The sign would be no phone number, no web address, just the name of the development. And oh wait, actually, hold on one second. I want to go to questions because there could be public. Yes, Joe, I'm going to take this opportunity to open this matter up to the public. It seems like we have a question from Matthew Fleshman of 35 Prospect Place. Do you want to try to pull him in? He has a question.
He has been promoted.
I'm trying to see him. Mr. Fleshman, do you, I can't see you.
Hello.
Yep, there you are.
My question is independent of the matter you are discussing right now, so.
Okay, so we'll keep you to the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll depromote you. Any members of the public that wish to come forward speaking on this application, 1-2021 S? Any matters? Any public, Joe?
No, sir.
Okay, so seeing none, I'm going to close this matter to the public. We'll open the matter up at the end to all of the public. So the motion that we would be looking for is to approve this application, subject to, obviously they withdrew the phone number and the website. They can add in the address if they would like, meeting all conditions of Mr. Disco's letter and Mr. Hughes's letter. Also removing any signs within the township right away. Do I have any motions?
I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion for application 1-2021-S for the application as submitted, with the exception of the phone number and the sign and the website.
Second.
Okay, can we have a roll call? Mr. Brendel, I think seconded.
Mr. Chairman, you should add a condition for the landscaping, I believe.
Yeah, so that landscaping is added in and subject to approval of Mr. Hughes and Mr. Disco.
Okay, Mr. Lawfer,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
Yes.
Mayor Weber,
Yes.
Committeeman Huber,
Yes.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel,
Yes.
sorry, Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
and Chair Tiger.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Perfect. Okay. One last thing. Mrs. Ruggiero is our environmental rep. Next month, every other month, she's going to give us an update of what it's going on with the board. So I just wanted to make sure we pointed out that the governing body appointed her to be our environmental rep. So she will be updating us accordingly. So any other, at this time, I'd like to open it up to the public. Any members of the public that
Mr.
wish to
Chairman,
speak?
just like to say thank you on behalf of everyone that appeared on our team, and wish everyone again a safe and better 2021. Appreciate your time. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. At this time, I'd like to open up to members of the public if we can promote. I guess the first question was from Mr. Fleshman. Matthew,
He has been promoted.
Give it a second. I don't see him. I see his box, but I don't see him or hear him. There he is.
Hello, members of the board. My name is Matthew Fleischman, a Springfield resident for 11 years and currently an AIT student of engineering. Today, I would like to applaud the township for prioritizing green development and, as we start this new year, bring up making our town more bike friendly. Cars work great for enabling people opportunities many miles away, but as it turns out, are not always necessary for crosstown trips under a couple miles. I'm sure any Springfield resident that has done FMG drop-off can certify that the roadway is not meant to handle so many cars in a 20-minute window, in addition to the detrimental impact this has on the environment. An alternative is biking. My friend rode his bike to FMG, but he has gotten hit by a car multiple times. I, being more cautious, have attempted to mitigate this risk by riding on the sidewalk, and in doing so, I punctured the front wheels of 3 bikes. There is a solution to this. Tonight, I ask the township to consider designating the edges of the following roadways as bike lanes: Mizell Avenue, Mountain Avenue, South Springfield Avenue, Hillside Avenue, Wabeno Avenue, North and South Trevette Avenues, Milltown Road, Shunpike Road, Mount View Road, Caldwell Place, and Baltusrol Way. Doing so will make our community safer, cleaner, and more efficient.
Well, Mr. Fleischman, can you just state your address for the record?
35 Prospect Place.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is not something that our board governs, but Mr. Mayor Weber, who's on, and Committeeman Huber are a part of the governing body. They're here. So let me, and I know that the bid is looking at different things, so Mr. Barnett can speak as well. But if Mr. Weber wants to jump in and kind of, see what he has to say about the best course of action, I think it may be something that we can refer to our engineering department to look into as part of things that they would look through. But Mr. Weber, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Matt, would you be able to email me all that stuff?
To who? I'm sorry.
Mayor Weber.
Yeah. Is your email readily available on the website?
It's right on the website. Yes.
Or if how you join this application, there's Mrs. Law's email address. Jennifer Law, you can send it to her, and she'll make sure that Mr. Weber receives Mayor Weber.
Yeah. Of course.
Okay, Mr. Barnett, I know that this was something you had brought up, doing some of this with the bid and so forth. Is there something you want to add real quick?
Sure. So Matthew, first of all, thank you very much for coming before us. Appreciate it. Always love to hear. Did he just drop? Oh, there he is. Always love to hear when young residents come out with ideas. When I was in office several years ago, we started talking about this topic, and I'm 100% with you on this. I think that other towns have done a lot of this, and as a bike rider myself, I love the idea of making Springfield more bike friendly. And in fact, I'd love to extend those lanes up Mountain View, and then up and down Shunpike as well. It's things like this are sort of a hard road also. So I'm glad that you're here starting to talk to us. So we're not trying to pass the buck to say, oh yeah, go talk to the township committee. The roads that you've mentioned are a combination of Springfield owned and maintained roads and county owned and maintained roads, and in some cases, even like with Morris Avenue, state. So that means that there's not just us and the township committee and maybe the business improvement district, but also the county freeholder board and possibly state department of transportation, things like that. So you're starting a journey that can be far and deep and wide and sort of involve a lot of things. But what's cool is this is how it starts with a person like you who gets up and says, you know what, we really ought to be doing this. So thank you. And I think that I certainly want to see Springfield a lot more bike friendly, as well as many other positive environmental things that the town can be doing. So I think it's sort of the right thing to do is I'll certainly speak to the business improvement district about some of the areas, which you mentioned along some of the more main business corridors. The township committee with our township administrator can speak more directly to how that gets done on our local roads. And obviously it's not magic. There's got to be budget, there's got to be money, and that money has to be found, and it has to be bid out to contractors to do the stuff. So there's a long road there. And then the township committee and our township administrator can also start to, help in terms of speaking to county officials and state and things like that. But so I do thank you for raising the issue.
Yeah. So, Mr. Matthew, that was some good information. Please make sure you got part of the right audience, the mayor on, and Committeeman Huber on, and Mr. Barnett, who's on the bid, to kind of start coordinating some of that. It's not saying it could be done. It is a long road, but it's something that more people have been biking. Obviously, with the pandemic, I even bought a bike at to go figure. So let's make sure.
Can I just add one thing, Dan?
Yeah.
I just want to add, Matt, I just want to add one thing. I really wasn't trying to just cut it short with just email me, but there's been we've tried a lot of different things, and there's really so much involved between the police department and traffic studies and so on. I can tell you that we're always trying to do something with that. It's just, it's a little more involved than I was able to give you an answer to right now. I can tell you that we've been trying to set up things like that, but a bunch of people on here can tell you that even just to get the traffic sequence on a light changed is almost impossible at times. So we are working on it and trying to figure something out, but I wasn't trying to ditch it by just saying email me the streets and everything else, but it's really a lot involved, and I would really love to talk to you. My phone number is on there too, so I'd really love to talk to you, and I can give you a little more in depth on it when we have a time tomorrow or something like that, if you want to call me.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
No, but that was very nice of you to come to the board and bring that up. It'll be something that the mayor and committee can work towards looking at to see if it's possible. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to speak on any business before this board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve, a motion to close tonight's meeting. Just with the reminder that next meeting is at 6 p.m. on February 1st.
It's okay. We'll figure it out.
Joe, can you demote Mr. Huber so we don't have to listen to him anymore?
Motion and second have already been made. All in favor?
All in favor? Aye. All right. See you guys in February.
Everyone, happy New Year.
Wait a minute, I didn't vote for chairman yet.
Goodbye.
I want to see who's running.
Bye, guys.